Welcome to the We Are All Dying podcast. I'm your host, Jenna Goodhand, and my hope is that through these conversations, we become more comfortable, competent, and confident talking about death. On today's show, we have Ngaio Davis of Koru Cremation out of Vancouver, BC, Canada, and we talk about the various ways we can approach eco-burials, as well as ceremonies to honor those that we love who have died. I want to thank you for tuning into this conversation. My hope is that you take the things that we explore today out into the world, into the lives of those around you. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Ngaio. I am so excited to have you here on the show today.
Well, thank you for inviting me to this. It's always flattering, I guess you could say, when someone wants to reach out and be able to just talk about death care stuff. And for me, it's also super fun because I'm a bit of a death care geek. So talking about things related to death is right up my alley. Yeah.
Perfect. That's me too. So I really appreciate you getting back to me. I think talking about death and death care and all the things around that is so important. But I feel like there's so many gaps in our knowledge and understanding, and there's so much discomfort around it. And I've really realized that it's a disservice to us because when it comes time
Mm.
for our own death or the death of others, we're sort of at a loss of our options or what to do. And in a lot of cases, it's too late when we learn what we could have done. And I want to
Yeah.
help maybe through this conversation, help people with some of the planning aspects. But I like to begin by just exploring your own journey to where you are today in death care.
Oh, thanks. Okay. Yeah. Well, I didn't come by it in a familial sense, the way a lot of other funeral directors do, and that someone in the family was a funeral director or had a funeral business. My background is as a carpenter. I'm a red seal carpenter, and it was more of a need of needing to find something else because my poor body hurt when I when I was still, in my 30s and needing to find something else to do. And I feel like death care and myself just kind of bumped into each other while I was realizing that I needed to find something else. And it was a fit. I think on both ends, and that's really how I felt about it. Like this was something that I felt like I could really embrace and would fit my sensitivities and my. I think there was a lot that I didn't know that I would fit, or how we would fit. Um, and yeah, it just seemed like the thing to be able to explore that would be post construction.
That is so fascinating. And so, did you begin with your own company, or is that something that came out of the work that you've done? What sort of led you to where you are today?
Yeah, so in BC, we're obligated to have to do an apprenticeship, which is great. I was accustomed to apprenticeships. That's what I had to go through to get my carpentry ticket, my papers. So that mode of learning was really good for me, and I did my apprenticeship with one of the larger corporations in North America. Actually, that's how I started out. And then from there, once I became fully licensed, I continued to work for others. So I moved around to, I think I worked for a total of 3 different employers before I started doing my own thing. And so I was working for others. Boy, I don't even really know. Must have been probably, like 12, somewhere between 12 and 15 years, maybe, before I decided to go out on my own. Yeah.
Mm. So, as most entrepreneurs, you probably felt like something was missing or something could be done differently. So, without
Yeah.
giving away sort of what the premises of the business you have now, what are some of the things you saw in the industry of funeral services that didn't feel right to you that you wanted to maybe have some influence on changing?
Yeah, so a whole bunch of different things. Like on a personal level, one of the reasons when I say like we bumped funeral service, death care, and I kind of bumped into each other, and one of the things that drew me into it was just this feeling of rightness, and there was a way to really be able to have impact and serve. And that misalignment started becoming really, really clear. And a lot of it was due to the conventional practices in which we're all taught, because that is the system, and that's who's out there for the employers to be able to provide these apprenticeships in BC. Um, and it was policies like there would be what do you call it, commission sales people who did not have a background necessarily in death care work. um, they would have to be a part of our meetings with clients who had just experienced the death of someone in their family, because their role was to be able to sell them cemetery property, encourage them to pre-plan for their own services down the road. Um, and that just, it takes the focus off of this very human interaction that we're having with people who are, some in many cases, just devastated. And that companies were seeing that this is what should be going on in a meeting with clients. That was probably one of the last straws for me. There were other things along the way, but that one really did it for me. And just just the way, I guess the overall focus was more on how to keep um, the bottom line up high so that the stakeholders would continue to be happy with with revenues at the end of the year. And for me, that's not what drew me into it. This is a very people centered uh, work, and it's a calling. It's not something you just go and do. It really, and after being in construction, that was one of the things that really was appealing to me, that wow, I could actually do something that felt not like a job, but was just something that you were passionate about doing, and there was compensation for it as well, right? So because of that focus, that real money centered focus from the others that I worked with, I really felt like I needed to make a change.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. And so you started your own company. How did that unfold, and how did you decide sort of what some of the pillars of values would be for you?
Yeah. Um, so I am not a business person. I never considered myself an entrepreneur either. It was more like, well, this is survival and I need to make a choice, either get out of funeral service altogether or do this. So my guiding thought was, I knew that the work could be done differently, offered differently, and with sincerity. And I had this belief that if I just held on to um, that would make a difference, and people would want that. I was seeing that there were these trends within conventional funeral services where more and more people were just utilizing their services to look after essential needs and then going elsewhere for ceremony. Um, and so I thought, why set up with a big bricks and mortar and be conventional if people are really just looking for a particular kind of service? So yeah, I was really wanting to focus on true family choice, and not this lip service of saying, oh, we offer choice for families, but you have to fit into our choice. You don't get to tell us what your thoughts and requirements and feelings are, and we'll try and help you with that. It was, here's our platform, here's what we do, pick one of these packages to fit into. So I really wanted to be responsive. I wanted to just be present. And that was just kind of the very basics of it. And as I got into it, I realized that there was a lot even just within that, and that one of the things that became and still is just something that I am really passionate and interested in is this idea of encouraging families to be much more participatory in the death work that we do. So with this belief that although I have the training and the expertise, I guess you could say, the experience, um, these are not my people who have died. These are everybody else's. And my role is to be able to guide them and talk to them about what they can do, what their possibilities are. So that became paramount. Not very long into it, I'd say within like a year or so, and then really realizing also that my own sensibility for wanting to be kinder to the earth is not a focus at all. It's not being represented in the death care work. So how could I bring that into death care work? So those have become the pillars, but they didn't start out that way. I didn't have that much forethought, but I was glad that I could see that early on anyways.
Yeah, it's great that you kept yourself open to that. If you're going to build something, it may as well reflect what you care about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, can you talk a little bit about the eco side of things in the funeral industry? Maybe what you've seen, what you've tried to change. There's probably a lot of things that we don't know that are actually, terrible for the environment, but because that whole journey of when someone dies, it's very overwhelming, and you don't ask those sorts of questions maybe at the time because there's a
Yeah.
time element to it. What are some things that we should know in advance? Um, and alternatives that we could do.
Yeah, so it really depends on the jurisdiction that you're in, with what you might be able to access for more eco-friendly options. And so one of the big areas is in our disposition choices. So what will actually happen with the body? Is the body going to be buried? Is it going to be cremated? And are there eco-friendly options within those two categories? So here in BC, we really only have one true eco-friendly option, and that's on the burial side with green burial. And it for whatever reason, we've just really not kind of grabbed onto that in a way that I think reflects BC values. Like I'm surprised that there just aren't green burial cemeteries everywhere. I get it in the big urban areas because land is expensive. We all know about the housing crisis and how expensive it is. So it stands to reason that green burial in cities and big metropolitan areas is not really there. Um, so, anyways, I'm going off on a tangent, but thinking about the disposition choices. And if you don't have anything that's truly green in your area that you're in, then what are ways that the options that you do have could be more environmentally friendly? So, talking to your provider about where do you get your caskets? So, my person who's going to be buried or cremated, what options do we have there? If there's nothing suitable, know that you can go and source your own. You don't have to purchase from the funeral homes. Looking at their operations, even. So, what are you doing just as a business to be able to, in your administration and your daily operations, to be more environmentally aware? Is the business doing anything about offsetting what they can't just truly mitigate altogether? So, with cremation, flame based cremation in BC, there's lots of research out there now. There are lots of statistics that are coming forward with how much is being emitted, how much carbon dioxide is being emitted, how much natural gas is being used, and what that carbon footprint looks like. We can't not do flame-based cremation because that's really only one of our only two choices. So rather than just saying, oh well, that's all we've got, is a company actually doing things to offset that which we don't have any control over at this time. So yeah, I think just to be able to think about your own ways in which you might approach an environmentally friendly lifestyle in your own household, and then talk to the funeral business and say, so what do you do? And really be critical of how genuine they're being about it as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's also more than just that part of a funeral. Is there other suggestions you have for making, whether it's a celebration of life or a funeral, more
Yeah.
eco-friendly or thoughtful?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in a bigger city area, just the things that we are already talking about in our daily lives, like commuting with more than one person in your vehicle. So when you go to a service, can you take public transit? Can you ride a bike, or could you go in a group in a vehicle? So that's very, very simple to do. Thinking about cut flowers, which are really, really common in for services. So thinking about, are they in season? Are they local? Are cut flowers the best way to go? Perhaps you could think of a potted plant, a potted tree, something that will continue to live and actually give back. Thinking about the food choices that you make for reception services. So again, is that it's probably going to be a local caterer? Are they aware of where they're getting their food from, their ingredients? So is it are they local ingredients? And then what are we eating our food from and drinking our drinks out of? Are we going to be handing out bottles of water, or are we going to have a big cooler there and just have glasses and water? So there's a lot of really simple things in that regard that can be thought of as well. And again, that's why I say, like, I encourage people to think about, how do you live in your daily lives, and don't just forget that when it comes to event like a funeral or a celebration of life. You can apply all that in many ways to those kinds of events too.
So you mentioned there's only two ways right now in BC.
Mm-hmm.
Are there some on your wish list that
Oh yeah.
you're so excited for when they get there?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely started out with aquamation for me as being something that was on my wish list, and more recently terramation. So I really want the two to become available. And it's not even just about what personally lights me up. It's just the idea of having choice for people to choose from. We have choice in so many other areas of our life. This is an area none of us get to escape from. We all have to confront it. And it just seems so short-sighted that governments wouldn't also be just automatically saying, oh, yeah, there are other ways to do things. We regulate and control what goes on. So therefore, we should make sure that there is choice for consumers. So um, it's just, I'm frothing when I look at places like Washington State, which is just south of us, that there was a lot of work that went into it, but then in one fell swoop, they had aquamation and terramation as two more disposition choices. So that, I just dream of the day when we can have something like that.
And can you explain those for people who haven't heard those terms?
Yeah, so aquamation, it uses the process of alkaline hydrolysis, and it's considered a form of cremation, except, it doesn't use high heat. So it sometimes feels a little weird for people to say cremation and then know that you're not using high heat to be able to cremate. So what it uses, if you're familiar with the process of alkaline hydrolysis, is it uses water and then an alkaline solution. Those are the key ingredients. And then that solution is washed over the human remains. The human remains are not in a casket. They should be just in either like natural fibers, or even just go in naked into the aquamation machine. And that water, that alkaline solution that's washed over them, there's a little bit of heat that's applied, and there is a degree of pressure that's applied as well. And that action just accelerates a natural action or reaction that happens in bodies that have died anyway. So if a body is buried, it goes through this hydrolysis kind of action, and that's part of the decay. And so with the alkaline hydrolysis, it just kind of accelerates the process. At the end, all of our soft tissue has been just kind of removed or reduced from our bones, so our skeletal remains. And that soft tissue, because it's been broken down, it's become part of the fluid, and it no longer has any DNA or RNA. It's considered, I don't know if sterile is the right word, but it's considered to be void of the identifiers of the individual. So that fluid could either be recycled, it could be used for fertilizer, or it could just go into a regular city waste system. And then the skeletal remains are dried, the bones are dried, and then they're reduced down so that the families receive what we would still consider ash, like at the end of flame-based cremation. And so with flame-based cremation, Instead of the soft tissue being washed away, the soft tissue is burnt away, and you're still left with skeletal remains. So I think that's for lawmakers, policymakers, they're seeing that connection there. And then terramation is through human composting. So I think a lot of us are probably familiar with composting. And so that idea seems a little easier to be able to grasp, what's going on, that there would be other organic matter that's laid with the deceased. And then through just normal composting processes, again, the soft tissue ends up just coming away from our skeletal remains. And at the end of a many day process, I think it's like 60 days, with a little bit of intervention from the people who are managing it, but not a lot, you end up with soil, terramated soil. And it's a mixture of, I guess, some of human remains, but again, no DNA is present in it. And then all of the organic matter that was originally placed in the vessel. So those are the two that really are quite exciting.
Yeah, they really are. And so,
Yeah.
for any of these processes that you mentioned, does anyone need to plan in advance, like other than letting their family know what they want? Are these things that are
Yeah.
readily available if it is in your jurisdiction?
Yeah, so you can treat any form of disposition, whether it's aquamation, terramation, flame-based cremation, just regular in-the-ground burial, green burial, entombment. You could treat all of those the same and do planning, as much planning as you possibly can, kind of get your mind around ahead of time. And for some people, that could include prepaying for things. And for others, it could be just enough that they have done the mental work and written it out and recorded what their wishes are. But definitely pre-planning is something that I can't, suggest enough of.
If someone wants a type of burial that is not available to them where they live, can you
Yeah.
ship a body somewhere else?
Oh, good question. So yeah, absolutely. And within North America, it's pretty straightforward. We repatriate people all over the world, so that can happen as well. But specifically with like when green burial first became something that was offered in Canada, the first place to open it was on Vancouver Island in Victoria, the cemetery in Victoria, and they had people who had died in other parts of Canada, and they were sending their deceased out here for the green burial because that value was so important for them. And now we're seeing that with terramation in particular as well. More so than I would say with aquamation. I don't think people light up as much when they think about aquamation, but terramation, because you end up with all of this soil that we really identify with soil. We understand what soil does for us. So I think it's a bit of an easier concept for people to get behind and to really feel passionate about. So again, with terramation, people, if they don't have it in their area, they are sending their deceased loved ones from like Ontario to Washington State, or from Florida to Washington State. So people are coming from all over. Yeah.
Yeah. You also talked a little bit about ceremony and how that's really important to you, and giving families an
Yeah.
opportunity to make the experience their own, and be more, I guess, involved or hands-on with the death of their loved ones. Can you share a little bit more about maybe what that looks like, some experiences you've had,
Yeah.
or what your hopes are?
For sure. For me, like I don't want to say that I pride myself, but maybe that is accurate on being more than what the conventional funeral providers offer. And when I think of ceremony, I've come to realize that there are so many different opportunities for ceremony that in conventional funeral service get overlooked or missed out. And because of the influence that conventional funeral homes have had on how we do our death care work, we've become really influenced by how we've been guided. And so there, and to be fair as well, there just are some very ancient practice and rituals around funeral ceremony through religious communities. So I guess where I'm going with this is there often seems to be a focus on one ceremony, and it's the funeral or it's the celebration of life. And that's the thing that everybody comes together for and pays tribute to and recognizes this person who has died and what they meant to them and the survivors who are left behind. And what I've come to see with the work that I do, and part of it is because I'm small, I consider myself a micro death care business, but also I think it's because of this focus of wanting to really encourage families to become participants in what's going on in the work that I do. And with that, I've seen this beauty that has arisen in there being opportunity for small ceremonies at different times for different groups of people. And that starts right when their person has died, and just being present with them, participating in some kind of physical care for the person who has died, whether it's a sponge bath in the hospice bed, or just redressing them, just paying that attention to their body. And then from there are these other little moments that can be created. A lot of it for me is with the deceased person present, and just inviting families into being able to participate in that work that normally a licensed funeral director embalmer person would do. And in COVID, I think that really became this it became more of a normalized thing that, oh, okay, so we can't have these big gatherings anymore, or we're having them in a very different way. But what are other ways that we can kind of satisfy the things that are important for us? And I had already been practicing and really encouraging people in these smaller ceremonies and other opportunities. And so for me, it was what's the word I'm looking for? I guess it just kind of made me feel like that there was a justified element to what I was thinking and doing and practicing, because I could see that people needed that.
Hmm. Are
Yeah.
there some, really unique or memorable moments or practices that, you know, have come across to your path that really stick out?
Oh, yeah. So many. And really a lot are when families have become involved in some aspect of the death care work. So I remember this one family in particular during COVID, but um, the daughter and I had been in contact. She knew that her mom was dying, and there was a bit of an extended period of time before the active dying stage really set in. Um, and between her mom and her dad and herself, they really had very in-depth and kind of thought-provoking conversations as a family as to what they would want to have happen. And they knew that they wanted to keep her at home, the mom, the wife at home, um, for everything, if at all possible. And as it turned out, that's what was able to happen. And so we had conversations ahead of time, so I knew that they wanted to keep her at home. And once she had died, they had wanted to be able to participate in getting their mom physically ready, to give her a bath, a sponge bath, to be able to cleanse her with oils that they had chosen, to redress her in an outfit that their mom had actually picked before she had died. And then just as other family came in after she had died, to just be present with her in her own home. And that is what happened. It doesn't always get to happen that way, but so when she died, there was I think because they'd done all this talking, there was no panic about what was going to happen. It was just this, okay, now we just kind of get into action. And so my colleague and I went to the family home. We had our little kit of things. So we brought some oils and some cottons, and then I really try to encourage families just to use their own soaps and use their own face cloths, and have your own bowl. And if it's a special bowl that you want to have there to have the water in, have that there. And then the lady who had died, one of her very oldest, dearest friends was there along with her daughter, and they had been participating in her care as she was dying. And so we bathed her, we cleansed her with the oils, and I can't remember at what point it was, if it was while we were dressing her, or if it was at a point earlier, but at some point, the daughter climbed up in behind her mom who had died and was just kind of embracing her from behind. And I think it must have been when we were dressing her. And she said, while she was up in there, she said, this is how the position I used to get into when my mom was still alive, to be able to just embrace her, to hold her, to help her with some of the daily tasks that she needed help with because now she was bedridden. And so now her mom has died and she just naturally found herself in this position. And it was so incredible just to see this, like just jumping right in there, literally, in with her mom, and just how normalized and natural that felt for her. So to have witnessed that was pretty special.
Yeah. So, I mean, this experience of yours being so close to death, how has it changed your lived experience and how you look at
Mm.
death and life and everything in between?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's probably a whole bunch of different things I could say around that. I think one of the things I was thinking about in relation to that is just how it personally helps to balance out my character, my personality, and that um, it death softens you, even though that may sound like a contrary thing to say. But when you're around people who grieve and you're around the dead, there is a softening that happens, just to really like ultra develop your sense of compassion and empathy for others, because that, like, I know I get to leave, and at the end of the day their grief is not my grief, and so everything that I can do while I'm in the moment, that's what I need to do, so and with that comes this benefit for me of just being able to balance out a personality that is usually just like go go go, and just be in moments with people. Um, and then in terms of just like the bigger, I guess, philosophies around death and dying, I think it's just more or less uh, strengthened everything. I grew up on a farm, small farm, and everything we ate, we either raised it as an animal or we grew it in the garden, or we would trade for it. Like we didn't have dairy cows, but we had other things that we could trade with the dairy cow neighbors down the road. So that it was this very pioneering lifestyle. And because of that, I think people who grew up in a rural area with farming, and particularly when animals are involved, you really see the cycle that just happens. In the spring, the lambs are born. And then because we're a family of five and we don't go buy our meat from the grocery store, we know that we're going to be butchering them and eating them in the fall, and then there'll be the cycle again. So I got used to just that kind of, for us, it was a natural rhythm of life and death. And I think it's really helped me. Well, I know it helped me when I first got into funeral service from construction, to just feel okay with it. It never felt weird. It never felt uncomfortable. Um, it never felt frightening. And I think it's just being in funeral service for however 20 plus years that it's been now, it's just kind of strengthened that idea for me that this is just a natural part of what we go through in life, and we can't avoid it. And how do we do things to make our endings graceful and to improve our lives as well while we're living.
Hmm. Absolutely. Um, so you've offered a lot of, things that people can start to think about or consider. Is there anything else you want to leave listeners with that they could either have conversations about, or even something that they can reflect on in their own private time about their death or those around them that will die?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be a little bit cheeky and not be soft about things because that's just the mood I'm in right now. But I really feel like people need to step up and be more responsible for knowing that we are mortal beings and we're all going to die ourselves, and chances are someone you love is going to die and you're going to be incredibly affected by it. So I want people to think about their responsibility in that and to not just step back and leave it to others to sort out. Things have, particularly in Western culture and in North America and Canada, our community way of being, where we used to be able to just really rely on our smaller communities to help us through a death event, that's totally changed, and it's been changed for a long time. And while it would be lovely to get back to that, the reality of that happening anytime soon is, to me, it's not there. And so I think then the onus is on us as individuals to just do the work, to find out what is available, to think about what's important for yourself, and to realize how many other outside factors will affect your choices. And if you want something to be different, you may have to get on the horn and advocate for it. You may have to advocate for terramation or aquamation, or whatever choice it is that you want, because it's not available. Push back against the conventions if the conventions are, when you really look at them, are not going to serve you. Our system, unfortunately or fortunately, is set up so that for-profit businesses are the ones that deliver the death care. And I think it's a bit crazy when you actually examine, like, we go from healthcare, and a lot of us, our last interaction with the system is healthcare, which is in Canada publicly funded, and then we end up in a death care system that's now privately funded. And you cannot just leave it to industry to create the experience. We as individuals have to get in there and be involved.
I love that. That was great. I hope that people take that to heart and start having conversations and getting
Yeah,
on the megaphone.
I do too. Like, get riled up about it, get upset about it, get engaged with it, get energized by it, and it will make all the difference in the end. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for bringing your passion and your energy and your time to this conversation. And I continue to watch what you're doing, and I look forward to the times when you're going to have more options for people.
Thanks, Jenna. Thanks so much for this opportunity. Yeah, I look forward to listening to your podcast.